Well, we're going to start a project today that will be a little bit more difficult than some of the ones that you've seen so far. And I guess I'm not going in any particular order of difficulty. I guess if you'd like to try to do this project, even if you've only done one of the other projects that are more simple, just go ahead and try it. You may not come out right the first time, but at least you will have tried, and you might surprise yourself. It could come out perfectly. This is solder bought at a hardware store. It's lead-free, and it's not appropriate for doing anything serious that you want to last because it's so soft that it will just collapse on itself after you're done with the project. This horse is it's made out of the solder, and if you just leave it like that for a whole day, it will eventually, the head will start to collapse or something will happen. It's just way too soft of a metal. But for the purposes of practicing or just doing something that you don't mean to keep forever, it works out really well because it's very soft. It's not hard to work with. If you mess it up, you can bend it right back into shape, and no problem. So we're using solder. It's also a large gauge, so that helps us for the purposes of being able to show you a little bit more visibly what we're doing today. This is the horse that we'll be doing, and we're going to start at the head and come back and just watch, okay? There will be times when I'm talking, times when I'm silent. I'm not going slow. I will be going fast, but the purpose of that, or the reason for that, is because I know that you can always pause it, rewind it, look at it again, and so forth. So I've already got my wire. I've got about 2 yards of wire here. It is solder. It's very pliable, and that's what we're going to start with. I'm going to start with the head first, just like that. That's the nose. This will be the jaw. These will be the ears right here. All I'm going to do is bend this in a little bit and bend this up a little bit, and you can see that I've created kind of a nose look. Then I'll pull this upward. That's going to be the forehead, so to speak. I'm going to create a big circle here for a powerful jaw look. And up here I'm going to create ears by bending upward, then like a V downward. It's not exactly looking exactly the same as the other horse, but no two horses should look the same, so that's okay. Alright. Then I'm going to bring this like this so that we can create a neckline. There you have it. It's kind of a little bit of a different look than what I usually make, but it's okay. From this point, I'm going to create some loops that are going to be a guide towards the body and to the back leg. And then with the back leg, we're going to create a little bit of this muscle look, or the tendon look. I don't know what it is on a horse, but they have that little look. So we'll create that just by going like that and then going downward. And this is where the hoof is going to be when we start on our second section of this video. So what we're about to do is make the hoof come back up around and do a loop and create the other hoof, leg and hoof on the back side. Then we'll do the tail and come forward and do the underbelly and the front legs, and we'll be done. So this is where we were at. We're about to create the hoof at this level. You always just want to make sure that you have something that's kind of realistic to the natural size of the natural proportions of the animal, and I usually just guess at that. To create the hoof, I did a left angle, or a right angle, so to speak, going in that direction. Now I'm going to take this right here, and I'm going to come down one more time to create an indentation, and then I'm going to take this part of the wire pliers the fattest part of the needle, put it right here, and I'm going to just come backwards with it. I'm not bending it with the plier, I'm bent it with my hand. And I've created a hoof. Now I'll subject this part right here and pull the wire back up through here. And you can see that I have a hoof shape like that. And so now I just have to create a thigh. And I have done that just by bending it a little bit. What I'm going to do at this point is cross over the top, and I'm going to create another leg. Just doing a silhouette of what I'd already done. So I get to this point, and what I'm going to do there is, create in the exact same section this muscle tone or whatever it is in the horse's body that creates that tone. And then I'm going to bend it down that way also. And you can see where I've created a second leg. Now, one of the things I find that I need to do sometimes is to subject things. And so what I do in order to make that happen is I just cut off a little piece of wire that I won't need later on. And I tie up a certain section of the sculpture so that it won't be moving around by itself. Just make sure that I have it exactly the way I want it to be. I'm going to come here and I'm going to tie it. Subjecting it, just keeping it immobile, unable to move around. Okay, so now I can continue with the rest of my horse leg. And basically I'm going to follow the same thing that I did earlier, which was to, at the same spot on the wire, make an angle this way, then an angle downward, and then at the fattest point of the needle, I'm going to do a full circle. Alright. There you have the second leg. And once again, I subject this and I pull this upward to create the hoof look. And there it is. Two hooves that are basically the same size. So I come up from behind with this leg. I have all this extra wire. It gets in the way constantly. It's a bother. But you know what? You can't do much but deal with it because you have to have it there. When you get to a certain point in your structure, you can decide that you may not need all of it and you can cut part of it off. But usually you want to make sure that you have enough wire. So you can see we have it on that side now. So I can just pull upward and create the second back leg just by doing that. When we come back in the next video, we'll tie that off, we'll create the underbelly, and we'll create the front legs. And hopefully we can do this in 3 sections. Okay, the next thing we're going to do would have been to create the tail, but I'm noticing that I may not have enough wire for all that, so I'm going to worry about the legs, which cannot be attached separately later on, but the tail can be. I'm just going to come here and create a little tie through the body, and then I'm going to double back and bring it down this way to create the underbelly. And oh, I hate all this extra wire. And then the front legs. So things have a tendency to get bent out of shape while you're working, but the important thing is that afterwards you can come back and fix it all. Alright, so there's the head. Here's the underbelly. I know it doesn't look too hot right now. I'm just going to create a loop with my hand. I could have done it with the pinchers, but you can also do it with your hand, especially with this soft wire. And I'm creating the first leg. Now, I'm going to create a little bit of a structure here for the leg. As you can see, And over here I'm going to create a hoof, just like I did before. I'm going to turn it this way just because I work better this way. So I'll create the hoof, try to make sure it's at the same level as the other hooves, more or less at the same level. You can see I'm just doing the same pattern as I did with the rear hooves. And now I'm going to bring it up, and on this side, this can be really hard to work with when you have all this wire like this. On this side, I'm going to create a neck that's going to come all the way up to there and then come back down. And what I'm going to do here, I'm creating the leg backwards now, coming from the opposite direction, and so I'm going to create the hoof backwards. It's actually I'm going to trace over this other hoof that I have here. Who knows if it's what the right word is, hoof or hoof. I've always pronounced it as hoof, and sometimes I bounce back and forth between hoof and hoof. But anyway, this is more than a notion. So you create that circle, then you come back and you create that backwards angle, and then you come up. So as you can see, we've created a hoof look. A little bit different than the front forward one, but it's more or less the same. Once again, I'm moving kind of fast because I know that you have the luxury of stopping the video and looking at it again and all that kind of stuff. So I don't want to dwell too much on one thing. Now here, I'm just going to create that kind of a muscular tone there. Come back, and things really don't look too cool right now because it's just kind of weird. Once we're done, we have all kinds of wire left over. I'm just going to cut that. I'm going to tie this wire to this underbelly. And let's see. I think we're going to have to come back and finish this up. It's going to require a lot of attention. It's basically all bent out of shape. It's all out of whack. And so we're done. We've got the two front legs, the two rear legs, and the neck, but it all has to be reformed. It all has to be re-put into shape, so to speak, in order to create the horse that we really want to see. And we have to add on the tail. So we'll be right back. Alright, so we have this creation that's really kind of out of whack. Honestly, it doesn't look good to me at all. But the thing is, none of them ever do until they're done. They always look this way until you finalize. So this is what we're going to do right now, is we're going to finalize. We have this neck that's not right. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to give a little bit of a breast by bending it forward like that, okay? And then I'm going to push this forward like this a little bit to create the perception of a neck. The neck never really finishes off on this particular model of horse that I do. And it doesn't really have to, because this is art, and you can, like in the many years ago, they used to create those statues without any arms. Well, I create a horse without a full neck. Okay, so there you have it. My philosophy. Alright, and we have this little leftover piece here. Take our wire cutters and snip it. This is too low. It needs to, I don't know, just something about it. I want it to come in at a little bit of a different angle there. Pull the head forward a little bit. This is all the decisions you have to make when you're finalizing what you want your creation to look like. Oh my. As you can see, it's not the easiest thing to decide sometimes. You can't have a neck that's too fat. And if this were If this were another type of wire, once you set it, it would remain that way. This particular wire that we're using, as I mentioned at the beginning, is solder, and it's not going to stay for you. It's going to be moving all over the place all the time. Alright, so it looks like we have a leg that might be a little bit shorter than the other ones. That can happen, especially when you're working kind of fast. The honest truth is, when I do one of these horses out of other wire, I take about 40 minutes to do them, at least. And if I'm doing it out of a precious metal, I'd probably take about 2 hours, just because I can't afford to mess up. Alright, so I'm semi-satisfied with that neckline. So the last thing we'll do is we'll add on the tail. And we'll just put in have a little wire here, put it in, and wrap it around a couple times. Generally, I prefer to do the whole horse with one piece of wire, but if I have to add anything on, it's going to be the tail, and I let it be an add-on. And basically, I'm just going to come up at an angle and come down and kind of create just a nice little tail look. It looks like a horsey tail. And then I'll tie it off again by bringing the wire through a couple times, or maybe just once. Cutting it off, and there's your horsey tail. You can add more wires to make it look different. You can have a horse tail that comes up like this, or you can do a lot of different things. And I'm not going to give this horse a mane, the hair that's along the neck, because it has just kind of a bare look. It just has that kind of a powerful neck, powerful muscular neck. And am I really satisfied with this horse? No, but then I never really am. I'm never really satisfied with anything that I do. I always wish it was better, but this will do. It works out okay. If it were in a stiffer metal, it would be a keeper. For now, it's just going to probably go into the trash, because there's really no way to keep it without it collapsing on itself or getting all bent out of shape later on. But as you can see, there's many possibilities. You could have a horse and his pony. Thank you.